So tonight should be interesting. We have over 500 people signed up on the Eventbrite. See how many people actually attend now.
What's our previous record? Wasn't it like almost 300 or something that we had registered?
I want to say around like 260 is probably our highest attendance record. We typically see about a 50% no-show rate. So we see about 400 people sign up, we get about 200 people, 150 people sign up, we get about 75. So our limit with Zoom is 300. So I'm prepared in case we see the numbers jump to close to 300 right before the meeting starts. I'll actually bump it up to 500. Oh, wow. So the number in Eventbrite is over 500 now. It's at 504 signups. There tends to be a lot of duplication there, but now with the Zoom setting with the double registration, we have 481 unique registrations in Zoom. So this is hopefully going to be a popular training. Were there any football games or anything we're competing against tonight?
Not tonight. Monday was the big competition.
Any luck?
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it was doing, but I got it.
Hi there.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Is that Patrick?
Yes. Hi.
Hey, Patrick, when are you guys going to have in-person meetings?
When it's safe to do so.
Any idea when?
I would love to be able to tell you that. Unfortunately, I can't predict how
Hi
a
there.
pandemic is going to go.
Okay.
It may be
How do
sooner
I-
than later.
Patrick, how do I get my training finished up?
I'm doing well.
Is that Patrick?
Yes. Hi.
Hey.
We have done in-person drills. We did cancel our January in-person drill just because of the Omicron. We don't want to have a drill become a super spreader event and then, we bring victims to an incident. So we have to be cautious. We hopefully will resume our in-person drills in February.
That'd be good.
The in-person classes, I don't know. We'll just have to play it by ear. Even LAFD, they were planning on starting trainings in January. That got pushed to March, and now it's to be announced.
Okay.
Janet, are you able to get your audio working?
Hey, Patrick, I'm going to head over to YouTube.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, because I can't hear anything that you're saying.
Oh, okay, that's disappointing. We can hear you. Technology is great, especially when it works for 90% of the people, and those 10 people that doesn't work for, or 10%, are left trying to figure it out. All right, so we're at 47 people on so far. We'll give everybody about 7 or so minutes. I don't like to wait too much after the hour to get started, but we'll give people time to trickle in. We did ask everybody to come a little bit early, but we know how people like to cut it close. See how close to right after the hour they can start and join in.
Unlike some of us who like to start after the top of the hour.
Live transcripts are turned on. Cool. I need to figure out how I can turn those on by default.
Unmuted. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So let's start in just a couple minutes.
We'll give everybody a few more minutes as they trickle in. I would ask that you stay muted. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and then when I call on you, you can unmute. But otherwise, please stay muted until I call on you. Jen, I've gone ahead and made you co-host. Can you help moderate? Uh, if you see people unmuting and making noises, please mute them.
You got it.
We'll give everybody just a couple more minutes, and they're still trickling in.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Michael.
I'm in Woodland Hills. Is there anybody here who is from Woodland Hills? I'd like to network with you so we can support each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you use the chat to network? And
Okay.
we're going to get started shortly. I would again ask that everybody stay muted. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand using the reactions and then raise hand button. And then I can call on you and you can unmute at that point. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator. And I'd like to thank you for attending our first presentation of the year. This is going to be on responding to a disaster in your neighborhood. What this is going to be an overview of a lot of different programs that we're using to help you organize a team within your neighborhood so that you and your neighbors can respond after, let's face it, we live in Los Angeles. The most likely thing is going to be an earthquake, but all kinds of different disasters. We get windstorms here, rainstorms. The last regional disaster was a flood. So we do get pretty much every kind of possible disaster in LA County that there is, short of maybe a volcano and, God forbid, a blizzard. I think if a blizzard were to hit LA County, we would just hopefully just shelter in place, because driving in that would, well, you see how bad it is when people drive in the rain. So, but thank you everybody for coming. We have 164 participants so far. We had over 500 people sign up on the Eventbrite, which we'll see how many people will come in the next few minutes. We are streaming this live on YouTube. So if you want to go back and watch it, that will be up there until it gets edited and then formalized and cut down. But that will be up there pretty much indefinitely. So you can watch it, you can share this and let other people know about what we're doing and how they can get prepared and organize teams in their own neighborhood. I'd like to introduce Chin Tamasengsi, our South Bureau Coordinator. Chin, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely, and a good night and a good evening to everybody, I should say. Thank you for attending these sessions that we host on a monthly basis. This is going to help you guys get better. It's going to help you guys connect, which I see a lot of connecting going on right now in the chat. So let's keep that going. And let's just really share this information and really use it in our communities. As Patrick said, we really could be under the gun of any and all emergencies that come our way. We live in California, which is earthquake country. So let's take this stuff serious. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you. And I do see Captain Gates on. He is our Community Emergency Response Team commander from LAFD. Captain Gates, would you like to say a few words?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hey, thanks guys. First of all, for everybody being here. And thank you, Patrick, for setting this up. I am Captain Gates. I am new to the CERT program for Los Angeles Fire Department. I'm the program manager. And the other person I work with is Captain Rico Gross. He's the disaster preparedness officer. I just wanted to jump on here and talk to you guys really quickly about disaster preparedness and how you can make us successful in the city in the case of a major disaster. We just had the 20th anniversary of the Northridge earthquake. That was January 17th, 1994. And while I was a teenager, I'm sure everybody remembers it. It was a disaster. And we haven't seen one of its kind since then. Let me just share a little bit with you about what happens with the fire department in an earthquake, and then how volunteers such as CERT or the Neighborhood Team Program or Ryland and other affiliated volunteer groups can help us be successful. So the fire department, if there is an earthquake, we go into earthquake emergency mode. And in the case of something like the Northridge earthquake, our companies go out into their districts and survey the area, and obviously come across catastrophic failures of buildings and bridges. And we're quickly consumed by the work that we have to do. That's where you guys and the programs I mentioned kick in. There's all sorts of volunteers. We have unaffiliated volunteers and affiliated volunteers. And the ideal situation is to have affiliated volunteers like the ones that I just talked to you about, because that allows the fire department to utilize people that we know are trained in evaluating disasters. They're trained in specific areas and they kind of know what to do. The biggest thing we need from volunteers are for you to be flexible, self-sufficient, aware of the risks that you're going to encounter, and be willing to be coordinated. So just kind of to break it down into a really easy way to understand is the fire department is going to be consumed with whatever it is we're doing. But somebody like me or the disaster preparedness officer or the emergency management department for the city of Los Angeles is going to get in contact with volunteer groups such as CERT, Ryland, or the neighborhood tea programs, also things like the Red Cross. And we're going to see what volunteers they have. And we're going to rely on you guys to triage the areas where you live. We know that you guys are going to have some sort of organization, and you're going to be able to let us know what you need. And then without fire department resources being on scene in your neighborhood, we'll be able to know what's going on there. Is there collapsed buildings? Is there broken gas lines? Is there broken water mains? So you guys will be a very vital part of the success of the city when we have to respond to that major disaster. Now I'm just using, an earthquake as one of the examples, but anything could happen. Like Patrick said, hopefully it's not a volcano, because we're going to be really unprepared for that. But there could be floods, wildfires. That's probably the one we're going to see the most here in the city. But any disaster, we will rely on our volunteers. And you guys being here in this meeting tonight is just a testament to your commitment to serving the city when we're going to need you most. So that's all I have.
All the testing said it was good earlier.
What's that? Oh, somebody said something. Sorry. Yeah, that's all I have, Patrick.
All right. Thank you, Captain Gates.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. I would like to remind everybody, please mute yourself, stay muted. If you do have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you and ask you at that point to unmute yourself. I've lived here all of my life. I've lived in Los Angeles. I was born and raised. And for the most part, Northridge was really the only kind of disaster that I've seen, except that I live in Northeast LA. We lost power. We got a good shake and we lost power. A few things fell off the walls, fell off the bookcases. But for the most part, we didn't have any damage here. And I suspect that for the people who did live here during Northridge, that's the story that they have. Northridge was a disaster in Northridge. It was really localized to the valley. Yes, the 10 freeway collapsed, but that was out towards the valley, not in other parts of the state, not in other parts of the city. What we do see throughout the world and throughout the United States is that natural disasters are, however, becoming more frequent, and when they happen, they're becoming more severe. The last regional disaster we had in Los Angeles was the 1938 flood. Most of us weren't around for that time. If you ask somebody who was in Northridge, on the other hand, they're going to give you a completely different story about the last disaster they experienced. If you ask someone who was in Ridgecrest what the last disaster was, they're going to give you a different story. But if you lived in LA, that Ridgecrest shake, maybe you felt it, maybe you didn't. So the diversity and the geographic area is very interesting around here. What is scary, however, is that there's only 1,000 firefighters on duty in the city of Los Angeles. We have about 4,000 firefighters, give or take, across 3 different shifts, people taking vacation, people being sick, and you're running about a 1,000 to 4 million residents in the city of Los Angeles. The number swells to 6 million during the day when people are here from outside the area coming to work. And so if you think about that number, 1,000 to 6 million, the numbers are not good. We have enough firefighters, we have enough professional first responders, police, other different agencies out there to handle day-to-day emergencies. But if a natural disaster were to occur, they would immediately be overwhelmed. They would be completely unable to do more than what they're doing at that exact given time. And so for the most part, we're going to be on our own. And that's the reality. If you look at any city, any town, any part of the country where there's a disaster, there are not enough professional first responders. It pains me to say this, but no one's coming to help, at least not right away. They're not going to come when you want them to be there. When you need them, don't count on them being there. Yes, they'll still attempt to respond when you can, but that's assuming you can make it in. If you call 911, 911 is going to ring busy. Every time we've seen a disaster, however, we've also seen that the cell networks have collapsed, being overwhelmed or physically damaged. So chances are most of us are going to use our cell phones to try and call 911, and we're not even going to be able to make that call. Landlines, those have generally been supposed to be reliable and power fed by the telcos. Only the telcos are ripping out the copper, putting in fiber, and that is no longer the case. And if you have your landline through a cable company like Spectrum, good luck. You have power backup on your phone itself, and that's going to maybe last you 30 minutes, maybe 2 hours. But after that, and that's assuming that there's no damage along the lines and that the power backups throughout the entire structure or infrastructure are still working, you're not going to be able to call for help. That's the reality of it. And to add that, FEMA has said that Los Angeles County is the #1 US county at risk for a disaster. And that's by and large because we have not had any major disasters. You look at the rest of the country and they get them seasonally. Blizzards, snowstorms, flooding, hurricanes, whatever. This is their normal life. They're used to it. But when you see that category 5 about to hit the coast of Florida, you also hear the stories about the supermarkets being completely out of food and water because they've been cleared out for the people who are not quite prepared as they should be. And they live in that area and they're used to it on a yearly basis. These are just some pictures you've seen. We've had from earthquakes or fires where you see collapses and structures damaged. And we're going to see a lot of this when that earthquake occurs. But I don't want you to fear it. Fear is completely natural, especially fear of the unknown. If you have not been through an earthquake, you're scared of it. That, we talk about the big one, and a lot of times it's very terrifying to hear about the big one, especially if you haven't experienced an earthquake. And your first one probably is terrifying because the earth literally is shaking underneath you. And if you're in a larger building, the entire building is swaying, and that can be quite terrifying. However, 99.99% of the people who live in Los Angeles will survive the big one. Just think about that. Relatively few people will die in the earthquake. And the reason why they will die is because they will do something stupid right after the earthquake. The earthquake itself, most buildings will survive the earthquake. There are a large number of buildings in the city of Los Angeles, and a few of them probably will collapse. That is simply statistics. We know that some buildings are not safe. They are not up to code. They are not retrofitted if they were not built up to code, and chances are some of them will collapse. However, by and large, you're going to survive. Everyone in this meeting, in this training, will probably survive the big one. What happens after that, that's where things get interesting. So I don't want you to fear what's going to happen. I know we can't predict when the earthquake is going to be, but we at least have an idea of what it's going to look like, and what we do before, during, and after the earthquake will really determine how well we survive it, because we're going to live through it, but the recovery process is what's going to be painful. And you've seen this time and time again in every single disaster. The communities that prepare together and plan together will recover faster than those that do not. And that is a simple reality of things. I want you to feel empowered by what we give you to you tonight, to really start the preparation if you haven't yet, but take that fear that you have of the unknown and turn it to something useful. Start to get ready. And that way, you know, hey, I've got so much food and water. I've got these supplies. So if power goes out, I can't make it to the supermarket. I don't need to worry about it because I have the stuff I need. And then I've talked to my neighbors and we're all on the same page. We've prepared, we've planned together, and we're going to be able to survive together. And that's really what I want you to get out of this presentation. FEMA stated that 90% of victims in a disaster will be rescued by community first responders. The professionals are going to be overwhelmed. It's up to you and your neighbors really to take care of each other. And if a house does collapse in your neighborhood, you might be the first persons there to help your neighbors out. This is a picture from one of our drills we did in the Mount Washington area. We, as you heard from Captain Gates earlier, we are supported by the fire department. We are volunteers for the fire department. Fire department put together the community emergency response team training to teach you how to be prepared. And they support us 100%, and we support them 100%. Kind of a good way to think of how to get ready is prepare, plan, train, drill, and then repeat. This is not a one and done. You're not going to spend, I don't want you to spend $10,000 in supplies that you may never need to use and then think that you're done. I want you to take time to get prepared. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I want you to be smart about what you're doing, and the supplies that you get, I want you to be able to utilize them in your day-to-day, just be able to restock them and replenish them, and that way it doesn't break the bank. If you go out and spend a lot of money, which people do, and then you never need to use it, you're going to feel like you've been disenfranchised, and possibly those supplies will also go bad on you. So I don't want anybody to be doing that. Well, instead, we want to focus and break this up on personal and family preparedness. That's key, core to all of that we teach about is you need to take care of yourself and your family first before you even think about helping your neighbors out. But then that neighborhood block, that community, the better organized, the better prepared you are with your neighbors, like I said, the recovery is going to be so much faster. After that, take additional training. The community emergency response team training from the fire department is free. It's free to you to take. The Ready Your LA neighborhood training is from LA City EMD, is free. These are good starts. Once you take these basic trainings, then you can look about expanding your training and learning new skills. First aid CPR is always a great training to take. You're going to use that in your daily life. If you see somebody who's got a cut and you know how to clean it and bandage it, then chances are that cut's not going to get infected and they're not going to have a medical emergency. And people get injured all the time, even if there isn't a disaster. So those are good skills to have. That kind of training does typically cost money, but I think it's generally a good investment. After that, after the trainings, we will do neighborhood drills. This is where you get the hands-on experience and get to practice the skills that you've learned. It's not good enough to just learn it out of a book or out of a single presentation. If you don't refresh these skills, you don't practice these skills, then you will forget them. And there is no substitute for the hands-on. After you've done this, after you've looked at your planning and you've drilled the plans, then evaluate what worked, what didn't work. If the results of your drill is that you have no feedback, that everything worked perfectly, I want to talk to you. Either you nailed it and you got absolutely everything correct, or your drill was not good enough. You should always be learning something from these drills. You should always be taking feedback. We're not perfect. And even the professionals, the people who do this day and day, they always learn from their drills, because it's just, that's how it works. And that's the expectation. As stated, take care of yourself and your family first. Before you even consider helping your neighbors, make sure you're safe. Make sure your family is safe. If you're worried about someone who's injured in your home, you're not going to be as much help to your neighbors as they would want you to be. Take care first and then come help. When you talk about family emergency planning, really the first thing is make a plan. What are you going to do if you need to evacuate? Or what happens if you can't make it home? What happens if you get home and it's not safe to live there? These plans shared with your family are really the backbone of everything that we start to talk about, because everything builds from there. Have 2 evacuation locations, one near the home. If you're at home and the earthquake happens and you notice that the structure is no longer safe and you need to evacuate nearby, have that location pre-planned so that everybody knows where to go, and they don't need to think about it. You just go there. But you get home and you can't even get to the neighborhood. Maybe there's a gas leak or an explosion and the area is cordoned off. Have someone somewhere that's maybe a mile or so away that you know to go to, and that all of your family members know to go to, and meet there so that you can rally without, again, cell phone networks are going to be down. You're not going to be able to call people and coordinate these kinds of things. Again, I do ask you to please stay muted as you join. If you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand through the reactions, and we'll go ahead and ask for questions later, but please stay muted. One thing that's very interesting is nobody remembers phone numbers anymore. And we all have these cell phones that have our contact lists in them, and they're great. However, what happens if your cell phone battery dies on you? Do you know who to call if you get an opportunity to? Maybe the payphone works, or maybe someone has a satellite phone that you can utilize. I would say it's important to have an out-of-state contact that everybody knows to contact after the earthquake, so that everybody can check in with them. They know where everybody's going to be, and they're able to talk to people as they call in. Write down that number and keep it with you. Keep it in your wallet. Keep it in whatever bag that you have with you. Don't just keep it in your cell phone, because for whatever reason, you can't access that number on your cell phone. Having that backup is going to be critical. Then everybody knows to call this person as soon as they can, check in, give them their status. I'm safe, I'm at this location, or I'm going to our evacuation point and everybody should meet me there. As people check in with your out-of-state contact, they're able to get this information and then know where to go. And if someone is not calling in, now you know who you need to be looking for. One good thing, a lot of us have pets. If you are not home and the fire department is evacuating the area, or the police are evacuating the area, and you want your pets actually rescued, having a sign on your building that lets the first responders know that there are pets in there, how many pets, what kinds of pets, are they birds, are they cats, are they dogs, are they aardvarks? That is going to be critical in letting everybody know, hey, please save my pets, and your neighbors as well knowing this information. One thing that CERT teaches is exit drills in the home. It's not good enough to know, hey, we're going to rally at this point a few blocks away. It's there's a fire and my front door is literally burning. How do I get out? Well, if I haven't thought about that and now I'm panicked because there's smoke and I'm having trouble standing and breathing, I'm not going to be in the best frame of mind to think about that answer. So always have multiple ways in and out of your home and practice these. Drill these with your family members. Hey, if the front door is unable to open, we can go out the back door, or we're going to go out the garage, or these windows, we can pop them open and get out safely that way. Or we're on the second story, we have a roll-up ladder that we can push out the window and climb down to get out. Practice, practice, practice. And I would say do this at least once a year, just so that everybody is familiar with it and becomes muscle memory when you actually need to use this. In preparation, it used to be, we told people to have 3 days worth of food and water. The reality is that's not good enough. It's a good start. Don't get me wrong. If you only have 3 days worth of food and water, great, but it's not enough. And the reason for that is our supermarket system works on a just-in-time inventory system. They have exactly enough supplies on hand to handle before they get restocked. And sometimes they get restocked 2 or 3 times a week. So if you think that you're going to be able to go to the supermarket after an earthquake and get food and water, you're going to be very shocked to find out that the shelves are empty when you get there. So 1 gallon of water per person per day, and that includes your pets as well. That's the gold standard for how much water do you have. However, that also means that that's 21 gallons to 30 gallons of water, depending on how much you have per person and pet. So you have to kind of think about this, how you're going to be storing these supplies, where you're going to be storing them. And I can't really give you, everyone's home is different, so it's really hard to give you any good suggestions on that. But look around, start thinking about that now. There's been some cool ideas where you actually use the water as furniture and put a glass tabletop on top of a bunch of cases of water. That's one thing you can do for that. In terms of food, you want stuff that's not going to spoil easily, shelf stable. Canned food generally does not need to be heated. It's already cooked, though you do want to make sure that you do have a can opener that does not require power, or these are pop tops or something that you can access. Freeze-dried food that needs to be rehydrated. That's some of the water that's included in the gallon is water used for cooking as well. So that's acceptable. Sometimes they do need to be heated up though, if you want to be able to tolerate the taste of it. So having a stove, either a camping stove or a barbecue with extra propane is going to be important. We expect that the natural gas lines are not going to be intact after an earthquake. Most of us do have auto shutoffs on our natural gas. So if there's a big enough shake, it will shut off gas to the home. So if your barbecue or your stove requires natural gas or power, that is not a good solution. Having a butane stove or a propane stove is going to be a better option for you. There's also meals ready to eat. And some of these have heating packets where you just put a little bit of water in it and will actually heat up the MRE for you. So those are always good options. You can find those at military surplus stores. You can buy them online as well. I recommend, like I said, having a can opener, matches. If you do have to start a fire safely, those are going to be important. Always cool are water bottles. I'm not talking about the ones with the little tiny openings at the top that you can't get your hand in to clean. I'm talking like a Nalgene style wide mouth water bottle, because even if you're not storing water in it, you can store other things in there. And those are always good to have on hand, just as general containers, as well as for water, of course. And if you do have medications, It's the safest, the general rule of thumb is have an extra month's worth of supply. Talk to your insurance company. A lot of the insurance companies do offer you emergency supplies and you can get those ordered. If they won't, then you can try putting away a pill or two a month just to build up that extra stock, and have that on hand. And then do remember to use these supplies because medications don't last forever. So cycle through them as well, and then put some extra aside as you cycle through. Going back to that also, especially the water. Water does not have an indefinite shelf life. It's actually the container that does not have an indefinite shelf life. So if you have storage of bottled water, especially the cheaper little individual bottles, use those and then restock. Don't let them sit there for 20 years expecting that they're going to be good when you actually need them. Same thing with the canned food. It's great if that's part of your normal menu. That way, you know, you tolerate it, you like the taste, and just make sure you set a few extra cans aside after you use them to restock that supply. And don't break the bank. Don't break the bank on this. When you go out to the market, you buy food, buy an extra can. You do this a few times a week, and now you have a nice stockpile sitting there. Just make sure that you use it and make sure that you restock it as you do. One thing that we talk about is having an under the bed kit. The reason for that is generally you're going to be safe in bed. Once you get out of bed after that, the earth stops shaking, you're going to find that your home has turned into a war zone. And that's because things have fallen off the shelves, fallen off the walls, gone flying across the room, and now are broken on the ground. And if you get out of bed in your socks or barefoot, and for those of you who have stepped on Legos, you know how painful that's going to be. Could you imagine if it was broken glass? And for those of you who have kids, you're not going to let that broken glass stop you from running and checking on your kids. You will deal with the pain and you will deal with the after effects. So I strongly recommend that you have sturdy closed-toed shoes in your under the bed kit. Before you get out of bed, grab the kit, and this should be strapped to or tied to a leg so that the bag doesn't go rolling underneath or flying across underneath the bed where you can't find it. Have it secured to one of the legs so you know where it is at any given point. You can access the bag, and in there will be your socks, shoes, leather gloves. I recommend leather gloves because the synthetics melt when you touch something hot. The leather will stand up a little bit better to the heat than the synthetics will. Have a hard hat in this bag. This is because there will be aftershocks and things will go flying across the room again. So this hard hat is going to let them bounce off the hard hat and not knock you out if they hit you in the head. Pry bar and emergency tool. If you close your door at night and the house shifts, you might not be able to get the door open. And having a crowbar or pry bar or multi-purpose emergency tool will help you either get the door open or break through a window and get out another way. Flashlight. Do not leave your batteries in your flashlight. Once you put an alkaline battery into something, a flashlight, a radio, or whatever, it starts to degrade. And if you leave it in there for a year or more, you'll find that the battery has leaked and has possibly damaged or destroyed whatever you put them in. So, and they probably don't have a charge at that point either. So fresh batteries left in their original containers next to the flashlight in the same bag, that's your best option here. Secondary to that, light sticks, glow sticks. You crack them, they're good for 4 to 8 to 12 to 16 hours, and they provide a nice constant light. And that way, even if your batteries are dead, you have some way to see in the dark. And, you know, knowing everyone's luck, that earthquake's going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be pitch blackout, and of course, the power's going to be out. So you're going to need to be able to see something, see what you're stepping on, see what you need to step around, and check on your family as well. If you wear glasses, I don't. I wear contact lenses, but I assume that you leave them next to the bed. They might not be there when you go looking for them. So having an extra pair in your bag is good. If you wear contact lenses like I do, I take my contact lenses out at night. This means that I don't have something that I can, when I open my eyes, I can see through. So having an extra pair of glasses in the bag is going to be critical for those that need them. A whistle is always great. If you try and scream for help, you can only do so for so long, but you can blow a whistle for quite a long amount of time. And you can do it in bursts. And if you need help, that's going to be a great way to get attention. There's a question about who sells light sticks. You can buy them at Home Depot. You can buy them at SOS Survival Products. You can buy them on Amazon. You can pretty much get them anywhere. But Home Depot, Lowe's, any of the hardware stores, they do sell them. Sanitation. We don't like to think about this, but everyone has to go. And without fresh running water, you might not be able to flush your toilet. So this is going to become a problem sooner than later. A 5-gallon bucket, they actually literally do sell seats that go on the 5-gallon bucket. And I hope I don't need to explain what the seat is for. Cat litter is a great, even if you don't have cats, a great thing that will absorb liquid and neutralize a lot of the waste products. What I do recommend is that you put the cat litter into a bag, a drawstring trash bag. Drawstring because it's easier and it closes up easier than the ones that you have to manually tie. Put that in the bucket first, put the cat litter into the bag, and then it's easier to get rid of that at a later time. Plastic sheeting, tarps, contractor bags. Contractor bags are the big 55-gallon trash bags. Those are always going to be great to have on hand for a variety of different reasons, especially if you have to get rid of debris or you need to cover something up. You can use those contractor bags just as you can the plastic sheeting or tarps. Duct tape is always a versatile tool. I would also have some rope or paracord on hand. These are great for tying things up or securing things as you need to, hanging stuff up. There's going to be a variety of reasons for that. Antibacterial hand wipes. I prefer the alcohol-free ones. Alcohol, we're all using hand sanitizer right now, but it dries up the skin. It also has a certain amount of lifespan before it evaporates. So you need to wash your hands to prevent infection. You need to be able to wipe down surfaces to prevent infection. And if you don't have running water, these wipes are going to be a lot better than the gel that you get in the hand sanitizer bottles. In fact, we should not even be using those hand sanitizers as much as we are. The hand sanitizer is really, until you get to somewhere where you can wash your hands with soap and water. That's literally what it is for. And you're not supposed to use it more than twice. I see people use it, every 5 minutes, and they're putting this stuff on their hands. That's not the purpose of it. It doesn't wipe away the stuff on your hands. It may kill it, but it's still there. So the hand wipes are great because it actually wipes them away from your hands and gets them off. Even if it doesn't kill it, gets it off your hands, which is what you really want to do. Unscented bleach. Unscented being the key words here. Bleach is great for decontaminating or cleaning surfaces. It can also be used to purify water as well. Don't get the scented stuff. That's poison. If you try and use scented bleach in your water to make it drinkable, you're going to do yourself more harm than that. It is getting harder and harder to find this stuff. Smart and Final, I think, does still sell unscented bleach. I've seen it at Walmart. I've seen it at Target as well. The concentrated bleach can also be used. You just need to adjust the amounts. Toilet paper is a great thing to have, as some people discovered at the beginning of the pandemic. Also, anyone who's gone camping knows that toilet paper is a lifesaver. Toilet paper can also be used as facial tissue. You can't flush tissues like Kleenex down the drain, but you can flush toilet paper. You can put that in your bag and have multiple use capabilities out of that. The home kit, this is a general kit that you're going to have, maybe a duffel bag or something, just to keep it all in one place. But these are good. I recommend having one flashlight per person, and then the unused batteries. And if it's in your under the bed kit, that's great. If you don't have it in your under the bed kit, make sure that you have one flashlight per person, because again, probably going to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be pitch black out. You need to be able to see what you're about to step on to avoid stepping on it or tripping on it or falling down the stairs or worse. Battery powered lanterns are great because they will light up a wide area. I do not recommend candles because candles can get knocked over, they can fall over, they can whatever, get blown over, and then you possibly can set fire to your home. Glow sticks are a great alternative as well, as previously mentioned. First aid kit. This is critical. People will get injured. You or your family members will get injured. And if it's a minor cut, it's a minor scratch, or it's something that you can take care of with a first aid kit, then you can clean it, you can bandage it, you can make it so that you reduce the chance of infection. And infection is where it kills people. It causes loss of limb. It's a medical emergency if you get an infection, a really bad infection. And most of the injuries that end up in the hospital right after the earthquake, it's the infection that's the problem. So if you have some basic first aid training and you have a good first aid kit and you can take care of these injuries when they occur, then they don't become medical emergencies and you don't have to go to the hospital. Trust me, you don't want to be at a hospital right after the earthquake. If you think the waits are bad now, you're talking about hours before you can see somebody, if not days. And be lines out the door down the block at a hospital. Fire extinguisher. Fires destroy things. Things catch on fire when there's an earthquake. Gas mains, candles, whatever. Having a fire extinguisher, just in general, if you're cooking in the kitchen, or you have cheap electronics that you bought off of eBay that tend to catch fire when used properly because they're not good, well-built electronics, fire extinguishers are great to have on hand and may save your home, may save your neighbor's home. Two-way radios with spare batteries. These are important to be able to communicate with your family, communicate with your neighbors. These should be in your home kit. And let's face it, we rely on the internet for entertainment today. If you don't have internet, you can't stream Disney Plus or YouTube or Spotify or whatever. You need to entertain your kids, entertain yourselves, have some puzzles, have some playing cards, something to get through the monotony when all the power's out. A go kit, if you need to evacuate, or this can also be a kit that's in your car, a car kit, or possibly a kit at your office as well. These should be a backpack, and it's easier to carry a backpack than a duffel bag, in my opinion. Extra clothes, not only just like jeans, shirt, socks, clean underwear, but also like a sweater or a jacket or something to keep you warm in case there's, it's one of those rare days that we're under 60 degrees in Southern California. So we're getting those more and more often if you've been outside. It also rains occasionally. So having a nice jacket that you can put on in case of rain is also always a good option. Sleeping bag and Mylar blankets. In case you cannot go home at the end of the night, either you need to evacuate your home or this is in your car already and you get stranded, having this sleeping bag that's going to keep you warm at night or having Mylar blankets to keep you warm in an emergency are going to be critical to being able to really suffer through the cold weather that happens occasionally at night in Southern California. If you camp and you have camping gear, tents, it's a great practice for living without power, living without running water, living out without natural gas, living without a refrigerator. It's good practice for what's going to happen. If you can camp in your backyard without any of those, you're going to be able to survive the earthquake. We do have electronics, however. We have these smartphones that we rely on for our day-to-day lives. Having a battery bank that can charge your smartphone, charge your cell phone, they can even charge your computers now. It's going to be critical because eventually you're going to get a signal, or maybe you're going to need the GPS, or you're going to need some other tool that's on that smartphone. And you can only turn it off for so long before you want to turn it on and check it. And eventually the battery will die on you. So being able to recharge it's going to be critical to long-term outages. It's always a great idea to have copies of your important documents, either paper copies or put them on a thumb drive, and have them in your bag. That way, if you need to prove that the property, the insurance, whatever that you need, having that with you is going to make things so much better, especially if, God forbid, you lose your home due to a fire or something and all of your important documents are there. Having those with you, it's going to cut down on the red tape and cut down on the time of recovery. And this is coming from the people who have suffered through that, through the wildfires, through catastrophic disasters. Let's face it, our world runs on money, and the ATM is not going to work. Your credit cards are not going to work. Those all require power. Those all require some sort of internet. Have emergency money with you, but have it in small denominations. If you need water and someone's selling water and all you have is a $20 bill, that bottle of water is going to cost you $20. I don't have change. I can't make change. It's $5, but unfortunately I can't make change. So I'll take what you have. I don't know if that's called gouging, but that's how that conversation is going to go. But if you have a $5 bill or you have 5 $1 bills, that's going to make things so much easier for you. Red Cross has this 21 weeks to prepare document on there. Just search for Red Cross 21 days to prepare. What they do is they structure out what to buy over time, over 21 weeks, hence the name, so that you don't have to spend all this money up front to get these supplies, and you're starting to think about what you need and what you should have on hand. You do need to customize this. This is a general guidance. The previous slides, those are all general guidances. You really want to figure out what you need, how to take this template and the starting point and really customize it to your needs, to your family's needs, and the situations that you live in. I've been saying that community is continuity, and that really goes to the core of what we're about to talk about next. Some communities have been wiped out and they never rebuild. Other communities have faced disasters and they rebuild stronger together. If you're on your own without that support structure, that support mechanism that your neighborhood, your community gives and brings, it is so much harder than if you have it. Terminology is kind of important. When I ask people in the city of Los Angeles where they live, I get all sorts of kind of interesting answers. I live in the city of Northridge. I live in the community of Los Angeles, and I don't know what a neighborhood is. And that's fair enough. You talk to anybody in the Valley, they think that their community is their city. The city has a mayor. The city is much bigger. We live in the second largest city in the United States, New York being bigger. We certainly live in one of the most geographically diverse cities in the United States, where we have the hills of Bel Air, we have the industrial areas of downtown LA, we have the skyscrapers. Every neighborhood, every community is different. But as a general rule of thumb, a neighborhood block, a good starting point is approximately 15 to 25 homes. A neighborhood is made up of multiple neighborhood blocks, figure somewhere between 60 to 6,000 homes. Of course, if you live in a large condo or townhouse complex or apartment building, those are neighborhoods in and of themselves. And then the community, that's bigger. A community is made up of multiple neighborhoods. Figure anywhere from 6,000 to 60,000 homes. And again, some communities are even bigger than that. Some are smaller than that. These are all general guidelines, but I want you to start thinking as we try and figure out where we live in the city of Los Angeles and who we're going to be working with. We're going to be talking about these terms and using these terms. And so we should try and be consistent about it. But every area is going to be different. So talk to people, talk to your neighbors, find out, especially if you're new to the area, and try and get an idea. Nextdoor is a great tool. Nextdoor is essentially Facebook for neighbors. There's a lot of crowdsourced information there. You might sign up for that and discover that you live in some area, a neighborhood that you never even heard of. But it's a good start at the very least. Might be incorrect. Might be correct. Good start. I recommend everybody get to know their neighbors. I live in a townhouse complex. I know the people across from me. I know the people next to me. I don't know as many of them as they go down the driveway. And that's good and bad. Probably not great. There's a lot of neighborhoods out there, neighborhood blocks where everybody knows everybody. That is a great starting point. If you know all of your neighbors, and not to be nosy, just to know them by their name, know their pets, know what they do, and generally what their schedules are, when they're home, when they're not home. It's a great place to be when things go wrong and you need to contact somebody and you know who to contact to get a hold of them. You really want to figure out who you can trust. The general saying is that 1 out of 10 people shouldn't be there. And if you think about that, that's approximately 10%, 1 out of 10. That's 10 out of 100, 100 out of 1,000. Those numbers add up very quickly. And unfortunately, if you have someone who you don't trust as a neighbor, then you may have some problems. But hopefully you can trust your neighbors. You need to start to figure that out. Figure out who they are, and then build a mutual trust relationship with them. You don't want to say, oh, I'm only going to use you when I need someone to pick up my mail. It should be a two-way street. They should be able to trust you. You should be able to trust them. And as you build this relationship, discuss and share your emergency plans. What are you going to do? Where's your family going to be? Because what happens if you can't make it home from work and your kids are there? Well, if they know your neighbors and you trust your neighbors and they trust your neighbors, they know they can go see your neighbors and be safe, even if you're not home. Or you might know the out-of-state contact and they don't. And your neighbors know, or rather your neighbors know your out-of-state contact and your kids don't. This is critical relationship building within the neighborhood. For those who you figure out that you can't trust, be respectful, be cordial, but don't necessarily share the information that you would share with the people that you trust. If everybody knows that you're out of town on vacation, maybe some undesirable neighbors will take advantage of that. Hopefully you don't have these people, but the statistic again is 1 out of 10 people don't belong. No household, no person can really anticipate and prepare for every need. How many times you're starting to cook a meal and you realize you're missing something? I'm short an egg, or I don't have enough milk. I didn't realize that I was out of it. You can't anticipate everything, but as you get to know your neighbors, and you've seen those shows where somebody goes next door to borrow a cup of sugar. These kinds of relationships really in your day-to-day lives are critical, but also fundamentally critical when there's a disaster. When that earthquake happens and the power's out and the water is out and the gas is out, sharing with your neighbors is going to get you through that difficult time. If everyone is on their own, everyone has a barbecue and they're just cooking all their food and saving it and using it just for themselves, you're going to run out of food faster. But if everyone shares what they have, one person cooks their food tonight, the next person cooks their food tonight, and you ration it out across multiple neighbors, that food is going to last longer than if everybody cooks it all at once and eats it all at once on that first night. And then 10 days later, 5 days later, even, everyone's starving. Generators, if somebody has it, can charge multiple batteries using the same amount of fuel. If you have freeze-dried food, these number 1 or number 10 cans, they can hold 7 to 20 servings, and they're supposed to be used in one sitting or used rather quickly after they've been opened. So if you're sharing it with your neighbors, those supplies go a lot longer. They can use less, and there's also more diversity. If you have certain food and only that food, 5 days after eating that's going to get really boring, really monotonous. But if you can share with your neighbors, swap, you have some, canned milk, they've got extra beer, things are going to be a lot better for everyone. I do recommend, again, talking to your neighbors. I can't emphasize that enough. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your neighbors, talk to your neighbors. Share lists of what you have, share skills that you have, share your plans with them, and start pooling resources as soon as things go wrong. It's important as you're talking to your neighbors to really kind of gauge their capabilities, skills, and equipment. Not everybody's going to have a chainsaw, but you might need a chainsaw. Not everybody's going to have a generator, but you might need power. Not everybody's going to have a barbecue, but you might need to cook food. Who has medical training? Who has skills like they're an electrician or a carpenter or a plumber? These are things that are going to be critical on the recovery side of things. Also know the vulnerabilities. Who is on oxygen? Who has a CPAP machine, sleeps with a CPAP machine? Who's wheelchair bound? Who has latchkey kids? Finding this out ahead of time, because maybe you can't make it home and you have a grandparent that lives with you and they're wheelchair bound on oxygen. Well, your neighbor knows that. They don't see your car in your driveway. They know to check on your family members. That's what neighbors do. So build that relationship now before you need it. And again, learn who you can trust. And you go out of town, you want your neighbors to check in on your pets, feed your pets. It's cheaper than hiring a dog sitter or kenneling your cats. Communication is going to be critical. Cell phones, they are everything today. If you were to ask me, ask most people who are older than me, if they would have the internet in their hands and the power of a full-blown computer in their hands 20 years ago, they'd look at you funny. But that's the reality of things. These cell phones can do everything now, except when the cell sites are down or overloaded, then they become paperweights. Yes, your GPS may still work, but if you haven't downloaded the maps, not entirely useful at that point. So we recommend that everybody gets a family radio service radio, an FRS radio, and learns how to use it. Have a neighborhood channel designated. As soon as the power goes out, that's a trigger. Power goes out, turn your radios on, start monitoring. Earth starts shaking, pull your radio out, turn it on, start monitoring. Check in when you have an idea, you've assessed your home, you've assessed your family, then check in. And everyone should have call signs. And you don't want to necessarily use first names, last names over the radio, but what that radio traffic should sound like is your call sign with your status of your family and self and home. And it could sound something like this. My call sign's Cabrillo 1. So I would check in. This is Cabrillo 1. My family is safe. My home is undamaged. Or things go worse than that. This is Cabrillo 1. I have a family member who fell down the stairs, possibly a broken leg. My front window is shattered and I can see cracks in the wall. You start hearing people checking in with this kind of damage and these kinds of injuries, you know this has been a major incident. And fire department's not going to be able to come. And that person possibly needs medical help. So hopefully you have a nurse or an EMT or someone with good first aid training, and they can help people out when they get these kinds of injuries. But if everybody checks in, they're safe, no damage, great, not a big incident. Maybe the power's out, but take a look around your neighborhood, see how things are. but at least you get an idea, situational awareness of how bad things are and how worse they could be. Put up a help okay sign in your front window or somewhere that's visible from the street. If your family's safe, put up the okay sign. If you need help, put up the help sign. And then as the neighborhood teams do an assessment of the neighborhood, they're going to check in on the help signs. They're going to check in on the homes that don't have the help sign. But if they see the okay sign, they'll walk past you and they'll check in on you later. This is what they look like. You can get these, you can make these. We have these on our website, so you can print them out. You can get them from Red Cross, you can get them from Emergency Management Department, but they're pretty simple. Green okay, it's visible, the green color pops, you can see that from a distance even if you can't read the text, versus, and it's two-sided. So you flip it over and you've got the red sign. Even if you can't read the text from away, you can see the red and you know what that is and you can investigate it. These are dated and timed. So as you're checking in on your neighbors later and you realize that the okay sign was 7 days ago, you might want to check in on this person, make sure they're okay. Map Your Neighborhood is a program that is a great start for your neighborhood organization. And it starts by getting to know your neighbors, again, over and over again. But identifying neighborhood gathering sites. So everybody knows that they're going to go to the neighborhood gathering site after the earthquake. It needs to be visible. It's a place that everybody should be able to see on your block or in your few block area, so that, oh, they're gathering over there. I know to go over there and check in with them. Check in, share information, organize response. From here, you're going to form 2 to 3 person teams that are going to go check on vulnerable members. They're going to see those help signs as they're coming in, and they're going to go check on them and check in on the homes that don't have that help sign or the help okay sign up. Natural gas, those are big causes of fires after an earthquake. And so if you don't have the auto shutoff valve or you're not home, a team is going to go checking for leaks. And you only want to turn off the natural gas if you see, hear, or smell a leak. If you don't have a leak, don't turn it off, because you can't turn it back on again once you turn it off. And the gas company, which will come out and do that for you, they're going to be busy. So turn it off if you see, hear, or smell a leak. Send a team around checking on everyone's gas mains to make sure that they're not leaking, and if they are, to shut them off. One team is going to stay at the gathering site and make sure to check people in and be the point of contact for everybody. Also, you're going to be communicating using those FRS radios, that neighborhood channel that's been pre-designated. Return to the gathering site every 30 to 60 minutes just to check in, make sure everyone's okay, and then to get any more information, and then go back out. These are your neighbors. You also want to set up and designate a neighborhood care center for those latchkey kids, for the elderly, for the people with challenges that make them less able to move around. They're not able to walk the block. Maybe they're in a wheelchair, maybe they're in a walker, maybe they have other challenges that if you can get them to one place and have one designated spot where everybody can go to, elderly can take care of the kids can take care of the elderly. Anyone with these challenges, this is a safe place for them to go. This should be inside, though you're going to have to determine that the home is safe or the location is safe. You want shelter here. If it's raining, you want this underneath something so that you don't get soaked. Someplace that's warm, safe from the wind. And generally, you want people to be able to feel safe here. And if they are injured, this is where they're going to get medical attention and they can be monitored. Ready Your LA Neighborhood from the Los Angeles Emergency Management Department took Map Your Neighborhood as their program and then customized it for the city of Los Angeles. Map Your Neighborhood is also facilitated in LA County by the American Red Cross. Using either of these programs, they're interchangeable. Again, Ryland is more customized for LA City, however. Basically, instead of talking about Map Your Neighborhood, they're going to talk about Ryland. That's the customization. But it's pretty much the same program. However, Ryland is facilitated by the Los Angeles Emergency Management Department. It is city employee driven and facilitated. When you sign up with them, you're going to get a city employee who is going to work with you to set up. And unfortunately, due to COVID, the Emergency Management Department their staff has been gutted. So they are having trouble keeping up with the people who want to have these programs. We're working with them to try and help them out and see what we can do about getting maybe Train the Trainer going in with our volunteers and help facilitate Ryland throughout the city. If you are interested in signing up for a workshop with them, you can go to readyla.org, and that will give you the information about it. They do have self-driven or online options. If you want to start it, you can, in your self-starter, you can go through that. If you do need someone to come out or facilitate on Zoom, those are options as well. The Community Emergency Response Team motto is do the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. That last part was added on because you don't want to work on one victim for 3 hours. You want to work on 30 victims in that 3 hours. If you're helping just one person, now if it's a family member, take care of your family member, but don't get stuck with one injury and fail to see the 30 other people that need your help. Always, always, always take care of yourself and your family first, then help your neighbors. But the training is there because we don't want to bring a victim to an incident. The Community Emergency Response Team training, which is taught by the fire department, teaches you a basic level of training to avoid making any situation worse. You should always be aware of your surroundings. You should always look up, down, left, right, behind, in front of, all around before you enter a situation which might be dangerous. And that situational awareness is going to keep you safe, keep you from doing something stupid. And as I mentioned earlier, most injuries after an earthquake are because someone did something stupid. This is where we start talking about that. But even if you don't want to help your neighbors out, that basic level of training, that situational awareness, that how to be safe, how to identify threats and dangers to you and your surroundings, just being able to take care of yourself and your family is going to make a world of difference for the fire department and for the first responders. You can take care of your family, then someone else doesn't have to worry about you. After you've taken the training, or even during, we want to start organizing our neighborhood and communities. And that CERT training builds upon the basics that Ryland does at the block level, but makes it at the neighborhood level, makes it at the community level. Once we start really integrating with the fire department response, we become force multipliers for the fire department as CERT members. CERT training is taught by LAFD, and this is a FEMA standard as well. LAFD teaches it in about 17 and a half hours, which is one session a week for 2.5 hours for 7 weeks. And they teach on the topics of disaster preparedness, fire safety and utility controls. That's how to turn off your gas, how to use a fire extinguisher, how to turn off your water, the basics, how to turn off your power, turn off your circuit breakers. Those things will keep your place safer than if you didn't know how to do that. Especially even if you get home and you have a water leak, knowing where to turn off the water is going to be critical in averting a flood. Light search and rescue, disaster medical operations, team organization, disaster psychology, and CERT and terrorism are the other topics taught by this class. And it is taught for free in the city of Los Angeles, taught for free in the county of Los Angeles. Burbank does charge for it, but they reimburse you for the cost of the class if you complete the class and if you sign up as a disaster service worker after. It's more of just, we have people who sign up that either never show up or they sign up and then they fail to complete the class. We do drills. We get together, practice the skills we learned in the CERT class so that you get that hands-on experience and reinforce the training. City of Los Angeles, or the Los Angeles City Fire Department teaches the class in person. We did do one online class, and then it never happened again. We're working on getting the classes relaunched, but this whole Omicron thing has really set us back quite a bit. When I say us, I don't mean, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a firefighter. I'm a volunteer for the fire department, so I don't teach the classes, but the firefighters who are city employees, they teach the class. And it's great when you actually have a firefighter, professional firefighter teaching you, because they have this experience. They've seen this firsthand. They teach the skills that they know and learn and were trained in the fire department on. Fire department also puts on quarterly refreshers throughout the city. And then they appoint CERT coordinators, myself, Jen, the other CERT coordinators, who are volunteers again, to help organize the community after we've taken the training, after you've taken the training. You can find out more about the CERT program by visiting cert-la.com. And hopefully we'll get the classes going again sometime this year. This is a picture from one of the CERT refreshers. I think this was down in the harbor area. Everyone gets to dress up, wear their vests, wear their uniforms if they have them, show off their bags. It's great, great fun. But also you get to reinforce the skills that you learned. What we've done is we realized that the CERT training was not enough. When the fire department teaches the class, they do what's called catch and release. They teach you and then they say, okay, go organize your neighborhood. Good luck and be safe out there. Where they've appointed us as the volunteers, we've realized as CERT coordinators that we needed something more. And for the last several, really the program was created in 30 years ago. For the last 30 years, we've been pretty much trying to figure it out as we go. What we've done, we've come together, several coordinators, and the neighborhood team program was created 10 years ago in South LA. And what we've done is we've relaunched the neighborhood team program last year to really give a formalized program that our CERT coordinators can take down to the block level. We combine the CERT training, but we also combine the Ryland training from EMD, and we combine Neighborhood Watch. These are the three prevalent programs in the city of Los Angeles, and they all have good aspects to them, and they're really complementary to each other. There's no reason why a Neighborhood Watch member should not also be CERT trained. There's also no reason that the principles taught in Neighborhood Watch not be something that our CERT members have. And at the Ryland level, at the block level, these are all good skills to have in organizing. However, we also know that in a city of 4 million people, there are simply not enough of us to organize the community. So we really do need the community to step up and say, I'm interested. I want to be a team leader. I want to get my block organized. I want to take additional training. I want to know how to get started. And that's where the neighborhood team program, it's the answer to what's next. I've taken the CERT training, or I just want to get started. How do I get started? What's next? We focus on recruiting and training team leaders. If you're interested in being a team leader, we want you to contact us. We're going to build the team around you. We're going to hold your hand. We're going to be there every step of the way and help you get started. And then we're not going to abandon you. We're not going to be like they do at the CERT class. Okay, go do something and good luck. We're always going to be there with you because we want you to succeed and we want your team to grow. And the standardization, this is critical. When we talk to the fire department and we say we've got neighborhood teams out there and they say, oh, we know what level of training that you have. Oh, it's a CERT team. Okay, we know what level of training you have. It's through NTP, it's through Ryland. We know what level of training you have. And that needs to be standardized so that when we talk about it in the Valley, we talk about it in the Harbor, we talk about it in Northeast LA, everyone gets the same idea, the same level of training. To that end, what we've done is we've put together 6 orientation sessions. And these currently are online, but eventually we'll hopefully do them in person again. There will always be the online component as well for the people who do not feel safe or simply can't attend. These sessions are going to cover neighborhood preparedness and organization, and we bring an EMD to talk about Ryland at this point. We talk about the personal and family preparedness, really expand upon the topics that we've already talked about during this, but really dive deep into it a little bit more. And then how to respond within the specifics on how to respond, set up the damage assessment teams, set up the incident response teams, and really organize your neighborhood so that when the fire department's not there, you are, and you're able to strategically and tactically deal with the problems that you experience and communicate and know how to organize on your own without being told by the fire department or anyone else what to do. Using two-way radios, it's not as simple as just picking it up and using it like a cell phone. There is training that needs to happen. There are protocols. There's practice. And we don't use two-way radios in our normal lives. And so we need that practice even more just to do it efficiently and effectively. Medical, first aid, most injuries, the number one injury after Northridge, cut up feet, because people jumped out of bed, they ran through the halls, stepped on broken glass, and now they didn't know what to do about that. So if we can at the very least clean and debride an injury, a small wound, and then bandage it and clean it, we're going to do a world of help for our neighbors. If this goes more than a few days, and chances are it will, 5 days, 10 days, we don't know how long this will go, people are going to become desperate. If you are in your neighborhood and you are visible and you're talking to your neighbors and you are out there looking around and you're making eye contact with the people who come through your neighborhood, the people who are looking to do bad things in your neighborhood are going to move on. They don't want the attention. They're going to see this neighborhood is organized. I see multiple people looking at me as I'm coming through here. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to find an easier target. But when they find that easier target and there's no one out, and you can see one house has a generator because their lights are on, no one else has a generator. Well, maybe that person is a little more prepared than they need to be, and we're going to take some of their stuff, either by force or by another mechanism. So make your neighborhood inhospitable to those people. They don't want the attention. We also do work with Neighborhood Watch on this and LAPD, and we bring LAPD in to do the presentation when we can. And finally, we do a quarterly drill. Get you started. You've gone through the 6 sessions. Now it's time for your first quarterly drill. We help you get started with that, and then help you in the future drills as well. What we want to do is we want to form neighborhood disaster response teams. And these teams are going to be made up of both CERT and non-CERT trained people. They will respond to the whole neighborhood, not just the homes, but also check in on the businesses as well. They're going to be a visible presence within the neighborhood, because fire department literally will drive by a burning building after the earthquake happens because they don't know what's worse beyond it. But it's that community response team, that neighborhood disaster response team that's going to be there helping neighbors out. And we should be visible, because if you can't call 911 and that fire engine literally drove by as you tried to wave them down, you're going to start to panic. And if you know your neighbors are trained and they're there to help you, that's going to help alleviate that panic a whole lot. The teams are going to respond to neighborhood staging areas, and they're going to deploy out those damage assessment teams. These teams are going to identify, report incidents, triage and stabilize, and then move on. And then when they come back around as an incident response team, they're actually going to work the incidents, just like how the fire department does it. And we model a lot after the fire department. A neighborhood staging area should be an ideal location. Unlike the neighborhood gathering area under Ryland, it should not be visible. It should be out of the way. And we like side or rear parking lots of businesses or houses of worship. Maybe there's an alleyway somewhere out of the way, because we don't want to draw attention here, because this staging area is going to be doing work. And if you get inundated with people who are asking for help and wanting to know when their power is going to be on, it really slows things down and really hampers that response effort. What are not good locations? We do know schools, schools go into lockdown. And if there's students on campus, they're not going to allow a random group of people who claim to be first responders on campus. So don't look at schools as your first staging area. Fire stations are going to be empty. The fire department is going to be out. So those are also not good locations for staging area. Public parks are too visible. We don't want to set up, again, a location that is going to attract attention. However, public parks are good meeting locations and public gathering areas that we can send people to meet up, and then we can give them information there. What we're working on doing are building out staging area kits at these locations. And this is where we can use your help. Talk to your neighborhood councils about this, funding these kits. These kits will have everything that the neighborhood disaster response team needs for the first 3 hours of operation. It's going to be a theft-resistant tool chest. Needs to be accessible 24/7, so it needs to be difficult to break into. These are about 4 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and 3 feet tall. So they don't take up too much space, but they do take up some space. In that kit will be magnetic whiteboard, maps of the area, clipboards, pens, forms. If you just show up without anything, you're going to get a good start on what you need out of this kit. But everyone should have their disaster response bag. And as you go through the neighborhood team program, learn what you need to have, CERT training and all that, you need to know what's in you'll learn what you need to have in your bag. And then as you drill out of these staging areas, you'll practice and utilize what they have and also what you bring with you. We provide radios in these kits and medical resupply. So even if you show up without anything, you have the basics you need to get going, but you're expected to bring your own stuff as well. This was taken at one of our drills, and you can see a map of the area with designated gathering sites. This is Map Your Neighborhood or Ryland. And then they have radio hubs and a few other things customized to their area because it is a very hilly area. There's a lot of streets that loop around, so it made things very interesting at this drill. But this is one area that's really developed their neighborhood plan. The staging area the role of the staging area really is to account for team members, track team locations, and figure out how bad it is and where they need to send the resources to. They're going to be communicating up to the fire station first in leaders. They're going to be communicating up to the fire department response, liaison teams with them, and they'll let the fire department know, hey, 911 is down, cell phones don't work. We're letting you know about an incident you don't even know about yet. And that's how we really become the boots on the ground as force multipliers for the fire department. This is another picture, one of the pop-up drills that we do. Just run the staging area out of the back of a truck. We have a map of the area. We've got the radios, clipboards, everything that we need to go that's in the kit. And then we do these monthly. We did have to cancel the January drill, unfortunately, but we'll start them up hopefully in February and rotate them around the city. Our drills are always open to everybody. So if you're attending this training, come out to the drill and see how it works and see how you can bring this back to your neighborhood. When we form teams, we do form them in odd numbers. A basic team is 3-person, your team leader, scribe, and radio operator. And then you can add on a couple responder pairs on top of those numbers to get things done. But this is the core as you start to formulate your response plan, start building around the team leader, scribe, and radio operators, the core of the response team. Picture of one of our teams out at one of the drills. So next steps, make a plan. Where are we going to meet? Where are we going to meet near the home? Where are we going to meet outside the home? How are we going to get out of the home in case there is a disaster? What supplies do we have? Build this kit that you have. Under the bed kit, general home kit, go bag or go kit, car kit, a kit at work. We've heard the stories of either a power outage or an active shooter or something at the business, and people have to leave with what they're carrying with them. And if you can get back to your desk and grab your bag, your go bag, you're better off than the people who don't. And sometimes you can't even get to your car and get out of there. New York had a power outage. People had to walk home. They used subways there, but the subways were down. So that go bag, hopefully you've got a sensible pair of shoes in there, and a little bit of food and water. It's going to make your journey home a lot better. Practice, practice, practice. Join our drills. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, make sure everyone's on the same page, and practice the skills that you learn. Second, sign up with us. Sign up with us so that you know about these trainings. Sign up so that you know about the training, the community emergency response team classes when we get them started, about any Ryland workshops, things that we're putting on, the drills that we're putting on. We do these trainings monthly, and we want you to start learning this stuff and then come join us at our drills. So go to join.ntp-la.org. You can sign up for our email list. And as we set up a membership database later this year, there's going to be a lot of resources here that will make your team organization a lot easier and better. And start your neighborhood team or join one. Hopefully there's already a team in your area, but chances are they're not. If you are even thinking about what to do, contact us, sign up, reach out to us. We're going to help you start this team. But we need you to do this. We need you to step up and be the team leader. We'll build the team around you. We're not going to say you're on your own here. We're going to be with you every step of the way. Take more training. Take the CERT training. Set up a Ryland workshop in your area. These are great ways to start that conversation in your block. And then always keep learning. Learn more skills, take more training, attend the drills so you can practice them. If you have any questions, you can email us at info@ntp-la.org, or you can visit us at ntp-la.org. So now is the time you can raise your hands and unmute yourself and ask questions. I went through a lot of information here. I went through it rather quickly. This was meant to be an overview. I did want to give you some concrete stuff in there. I gave you a lot of details that still need to be fleshed out. Maybe a little bit more than needed, but I wanted you to leave here with ideas about what to do next and how to get started, about what the staging areas are, where you're going to organize with your neighbors, what needs to go into them, and then reach out to us and we're going to help you through this process. But I want to get the wheels start rolling in your head. So what questions do you have? Michael.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you very much. We've been attending, Angela and I have been attending the training you've been providing. Have you finalized the family radio that you recommend yet?
Yes, it's up on our website, ntp-la.org/radio. We recommend, we came up with 2 price points. We were looking for 3 price points, but a couple of the radios blended together. We recommend the Midland GXT 1000, I think it is.
Correct.
The high price
point.
point.
Up right now.
And then there's a Motorola T200 that we recommend at the lower price point. Either of these radios are going to do you well. The more expensive radio is going to work better and give you a little more option, but we don't want you to go buy the most expensive thing. We want you to get something and get familiar with using it.
Thank you so much.
How do you pronounce that? Virginie?
Virginie.
Virginie.
Yeah,
Virginie?
like Virginia, but it's French.
Virginie. All right.
Yeah. Hi. At the beginning, you mentioned that you, the LA Fire Department specifically, would rather have some volunteer being affiliated versus not affiliated. What do you mean by that? Like affiliated to the fire department, affiliated to you? I'm not sure I understand what the affiliation is. To whom?
Affiliation is you're known to them. You're with an organization that is known to the fire department or to the
with
city.
an organization like
Yes.
yours, for example.
So yes, under the CERT banner or under neighborhood team program banner with some leadership, with organization, you're not some random, let's face it, random weirdo, random, there's a term, Ricky Rescue. people who want to do more than they should be doing, want to be more involved than they need to be. They take all this
Okay.
training and they want to get involved in ways that are actually detrimental. And either they are not
Autonomous.
as good as they think they are, but certainly the city doesn't know who they are, and they could be here to help, or they could be here to do something else. With the affiliation with a group, with a leadership structure, people who can vouch for you, you're part of this team, and the team
Part of a
helps
team.
you. That makes you better when you're responding, and the city can trust you, the fire department can trust you.
And Patrick, can I throw one point in there too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Additional to all of that, they know what you're trained up for. Patrick mentioned that. If you just randomly show up and it's like, hey, I want to help, like Patrick said, you may not have any business being out there because you don't know what you're doing, and you can become that victim that comes to an incident. So they like knowing who their volunteers are, because they know at least the level of training they should have.
Someone got that question answered 3 times. All right. I didn't have a chance to read through really any of the questions in the chat. Hopefully Chin has been able to answer, and some of the other experienced members have been able to answer some of them. If you have been private messaging me, I've not been keeping up with them. If you have a question, feel free to ask and we can answer it. I'm sure you're not the only one with the question. Cliff.
Hey, my name's Cliff. I'm McKinleyville in Northern California. Do you guys use Merit to keep track of your qualifications and certifications, or some tool like that?
Yes, we do have a Merit account. However, I don't know how useful it is. I'm not going to. It's great if you get training. It's great if you get certifications. I don't expect you to show them to me. I'm going to trust you, but I need to know who you are. So that's really where coming to the drills, coming to these meetings and trainings is going to be critical. Yes, we do. And when we get the team portal up and running, that's going to be a good place for people to upload them. But I don't really know how useful it is.
All right, just curious. Thanks a lot.
I will tell you that volunteers do like recognition, and so they get a piece of paper, it makes them feel great. And so from a leadership standpoint, recognizing our volunteers, it's not something I'm great at doing, personal failing, but it makes our volunteers feel like they're supported, feel like they're being involved, and that they've accomplished something, really. So yes, Merit's great for that, because they get that merit that they accomplished this goal or this achievement, this training. So it's good for that aspect.
I appreciate that. And great training too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Stacy.
Hi, yes. I had a 2-part question. One was, it's about the toolkit that you talked about.
Staging area kit.
The staging area kit, correct. Wondering, you said something not too visible. Could someone's backyard suffice? And is it your experience, or do you have knowledge about whether or not you should be worried about safety if you're too visible, or if you have a lot of resources in one area? Is that what you were kind of alluding to with the 1 out of 10 doesn't fit? Or how do you keep kind of the neighborhood group together with a whole lot of resources, trying to help the neighborhood safe from people that maybe will take resources?
The answer to every one of your questions is yes. I'll explain that. Yes.
I guess then what do you recommend you do?
While it's not ideal, a backyard is a usable, or a side yard is a usable staging area if there's no better options. If you have a strictly residential neighborhood, that may be the only option that you have. And we've seen it. We just witnessed a drill, observed a drill where they did that. They had the staging area in the backyard of someone. They had trusted neighbors who had access to it, and that's great. That does not work for every neighborhood. you're not necessarily going to give the keys or the combination to your shed with all of your supplies to all of your neighbors. And there's very good reasons for that. You might wake up one day and it's empty. Hopefully you don't, but you're going to have to trust the neighbors and have trusted access. And if you're out of town, it needs to be accessible. So you can't rely on you being there to give people access to it. So all of that needs to be factored in, and it's going to play a large factor on your neighborhood. If you don't live in a great neighborhood and you don't have neighbors you can trust, you probably don't want to host the staging area in your backyard. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know if through any of the training, there's safety measures to take or any advice on how to protect and organize, but I'll keep researching.
When we talk about, we go in more in depth in the neighborhood situational awareness and security training. We do talk about that a lot more in depth. So there's a lot of factors to go in there, but for a quick overview, it's
Thank you.
Ron.
You like this side? What do you think? You like this? Over here?
Which Ron?
Ron Starkin.
Over here, this side?
That would be me. Hi.
Hi, Ron.
We had a chance to chat a little bit yesterday because I held one of those infamous Ryland meetings in my neighborhood. And it was actually the third time I've held a meeting in 3 years. And it went very well. Your presentation was in much more detail, and it was great to hear the presentation. I just briefly wanted to share that I have some other interesting connections. I'm actually the lead person for the next door site in our neighborhood, and I have actually conducted 3 earthquake drills in our neighborhood.
Get to your question, guys. Get to your question.
Interestingly enough,
this motherfucker is taking forever to ask this question.
Wow.
I beg your pardon. I'm
You really
sorry
have to, everybody has to mute if they're not talking, because we hear you when you talk and you're not muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm being long-winded, but what I was trying to say is that after our first emergency preparedness meeting, I was on vacation in Oregon when there was a fire that came through from Sylmar to Porter Ranch, and we were evacuated. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got calls from my neighbors asking me what to do. And fortunately, the fire didn't get this far, but having the training really helped a lot in helping calm their nerves and to take the right action. Anyway, I just wanted to just say I really appreciate this presentation, and if there's something I can do to help you in the future, I would like to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely want to link you up with the Valley. You're in the Valley. We want to link you up with the Valley Bureau coordinators and their battalion coordinators up there, and let's get a neighborhood team program going. Ryland is a good first start to it. We're not trying to replace Ryland. We're not trying to replace CERT. We're trying to integrate it all. So
yeah,
it's a great start.
This was very good to help me understand how we work together. And I look forward to doing that with you.
Right. Sherman.
Yes. Are the slides going to be available separate from the talk itself?
Yes, I'll have the slides up as well, and linked on the YouTube channel when we get the video edited.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Chin, did you have anything to add?
No, yeah, I've actually will say that I've had a good time here. I've been answering questions here on the chat. We've had some really great interactions. And actually, Patrick, I've got a few people who want to connect offline, and we'll connect with those folks. Thank you for everybody who came. And it's a long presentation with a lot of information, but this is information that can save your life. So, and especially those of you who are in the Los Angeles area, become involved with your neighborhood team program. We're really looking, like Patrick said, we bring the best of the 3 programs: CERT, Ryland and Neighborhood Watch to your neighborhoods. And a lot of you guys are in some state of being there. You guys can take it to the next level and be ready for disaster preparedness, Neighborhood Watch, etc. So
I have a question.
Yeah, Diane.
Yeah, my name is Cynthia.
Oh, Cynthia.
Whoopsie.
I'm a member of Neighborhood Watch and a member of CERT, but my neighborhood is not that friendly. Although I do have a couple of friends in the neighborhood. One of them is a registered nurse next door, and the other one is also a Neighborhood Watch captain. People don't seem to know each other or try to get to know each other because they're all in a bedroom community, basically, because they work. Well, we live in Palmdale and they work down in LA. So, and we don't know anything about each other. And I've even had Neighborhood Watch meetings, safety meetings, and disaster preparedness meetings at my home, but nobody really cared to, other than going to the meeting, cared to even get to know each other at all. And during COVID, of course, a lot of them are being very unsafe anyway. So I don't know how, other than these other two people, how I could set up anything like this. You have any suggestions doing that during COVID?
Cynthia, it's like I'm going to jump into this and say, Cynthia, start with what you have. Many times, starting a team starts with a very core group, and sometimes it's a very small core group. Do not let the fact that you do not have 20 people for you to start off deter you from doing it, because you three folks in a disaster, if it shakes tonight, or if something goes boom someplace, or if the lights go out, you three people will be the people who will get everybody else in your neighborhood who's running around with their hair on fire saying, oh my God, the sky is falling, and hey, it's good to meet you, even though I've lived next to you 5 years. You're going to be the people who kind of pull it together, because we as human beings, we kind of like to find a leader out there to kind of lead us around. We don't always like to be leaders. You know, you see when you say, hey, can you step up, and how people shrink out of it. But you guys will be the people to actually pull it together. So start with what you have. And then if you can, start reaching out to your neighbors. Do your training in a visible place where your neighbors can see what you're doing, because they will also come and say, hey, what are you doing? And you might pull people in that way. And I will tell you, I grew up in Los Angeles like Patrick, and in my neighborhood, every neighbor knew each other. Every neighbor was up in your business. And those were the best, and those were and are the best neighborhoods. We don't have that now. And we have to work a little bit harder to get people involved. You may get a team of 5 or 7, who knows, maybe a little bit more if you're lucky, but it takes time. So Cynthia, the long answer, or the short version, is start with those 3 people and start making it happen. Reach out to us. We'll give you support. We'll try to even help you with that outreach.
Well, how do you do that during COVID? Reach out to people. I'm trying to not to reach out to people. I don't know.
I'm actually at your front door right now. Open that door and let me in. But I'm kidding.
I don't let anybody in unless they have a mask.
You can use Zoom. You just, the telephone.
Exactly what Diane said. Exactly.
Yeah, you never have to meet them in person. You just reach out through the phone and set up a Zoom meeting.
And what you can do is leave a leaflet or something at their door, a flyer. Say, hey, I'm your neighbor up the street. We want to have a Zoom. We want to have a Zoom meeting to get together. See who you can pull. See who you can pull. And Zoom. Diane stole my thunder on that one. And she and I know each other very well, so so I knew she would come. But use Zoom. Use the exact platform we are using right now.
And also, are you a member of your next door?
Yes, I am. And I'm also a member of, I'm a neighborhood watch captain as well.
Yeah, so if you go on Nextdoor and say you're organizing a Zoom for emergency preparedness, you might be surprised about the number of people who might be interested. Mhm.
I don't think many people are in my neighborhood that are on Nextdoor. It's usually a town.
Well, you go to the one that is your neighborhood. You have one, you're signed up to your neighborhood. So that'll tell you how many people are that are in your neighborhood that are signed up to that one. But it's also connected to other neighborhoods around you. But you definitely are connected to your neighborhood through your neighborhood Nextdoor. So, even if there's only 20 people, put it out there.
Cynthia, I'm just going to tell you, and it's like, just do it.
Yeah.
If you have three people, and I will tell you this, those are the three most reliable. You three would be the most reliable people you can lean on. At the very least, that. Come up with that plan, and then I guarantee you, some other people will drift in. They will look, and human beings are like that, and you'll get a few more. But it might take time. I will not lie to you on that. It may take time.
But you got to start now. So I have a question.
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple of things I'm noticing here talk about, water being kept in plastic bottles, and but when I was putting my first aid kit together, you can get water in packets.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work?
Those have a 5-year lifespan.
They have a 5-year?
They do have ones that have 20, 50 year even. I think the cardboard box water is 20-year, and then the can water is 50-year or something like that.
Right. So that's just to address all the people that were worried about the plastic bottles problem.
Yeah.
And also too, I just get a little overwhelmed at all this, I live in a bungalow. I do not have storage. So I'm just, I guess, how are people, how many people on this thing have all these supplies, and where are they putting them? I don't have a garage, so I just get a little overwhelmed. I had put a packet together in a duffel, like in a backpack, and put it in my car, but that was a car that got stolen. And so some lucky homeless person has got a really great emergency kit. So I don't know how other people are handling it.
This is why I recommend, when you're building, especially the food supplies, buy a little bit extra than what you have. And then just, a little bit extra each time. Hopefully you have a little bit more cabinet space.
I don't. I'm gonna have to, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I live in a small bungalow. So I'm thinking maybe I can get together with a neighbor who has a thing and work with them, maybe somebody who has a garage, and say, hey, let's do this together, kind of thing.
Yeah. And you might find that very successful, and it builds that relationship that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And Diane, I will add to it. Just start doing what you can do. Work with what you got now. If you have a couple days of food or whatever, you're better off than you are probably right now. And then continue to work with those neighbors and to pool and get your resources and storage together.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna reach out to my neighbor and see if I can get her on board. She's got a garage that that's on our property, and yeah, okay, all right. I answered my own question. Thanks.
And I want to throw one thing out here before we take more questions. And there's great questions. I want to say something that I saw Daryl Chin put in the chat, and I think Cynthia, going back to your question, he said something great, and I think he said it in way shorter period of time than I did. Be endlessly patient in your effort to expand your neighborhood teams. I think that is absolutely something that everybody here has to understand in the disaster preparedness game. You have to be endlessly patient in your efforts because, again, as I like to say, it's not as popular as dealing with homelessness, crime, development, and all that kind of stuff. But it is very important, and you do have to have that endless patience so you do not lose your enthusiasm or your will to make this happen. So, Daryl, thank you for that.
Chandra.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you very much for your presentation. I wanted to follow up. I thought I heard you in somewhere on one of the slides talk about staging kits, and there was a possibility that maybe I misheard that your council office or some office could help you obtain a few of them, or did I mishear that?
So we've got a 501c3 that can apply for neighborhood purposes grants from neighborhood councils. We've already had a few neighborhood councils, West Adams, LA 32, North Hills West, put up money for staging area kits, and we've already deployed a couple of these out there. So we want to work with your neighborhood council. We do need you to kind of make that introduction to us with them, and we'll work with you and them to make these happen.
Okay, so if I'm out in Warner Center, Woodland Hills, would I just approach them directly?
I would say talk to their public safety committees if they have one.
Okay.
That's generally the greatest traction we get are with those. Not all neighborhood councils have public safety committees, so you have to see who's interested. Not all neighborhood councils are interested in this. Some are. Hopefully yours is. And then dealing with neighborhood councils is always a interesting experience. They're all different. Some are better, some are worse, some are indifferent. But we'll be there to help you. We'll put you up with your CERT coordinator, and also start working that angle as well.
And the way you approach neighborhood councils is you ask to be put on their agenda to do a proposal. And then they'll say, okay, we're going to refer this to the safety committee, or, you know, they'll you do your presentation and they'll take it from there.
Thank you. And I don't, just to add for Cynthia, I think if she's still here, she was the one that had the question of how do you get people involved, right? And Daryl had come up with the endlessly patient. Maybe this is silly, but I know that in my community where I am a HOA board president, I'm involved in my neighborhood council. I'm a Facebook administrator for a private neighborhood page. When I could not get traction with my community in terms of let's have a talk about being better prepared, it was right at the start of COVID. And I started with a socially distanced block party where we had people bring their own drinks, whether it was coffee or hot cocoa or soda, because people feel fatigued. And if I could get them to bond over smiles, that was a place to start. That's all I'll say there.
How'd that go?
You know what? We ended up with 7 and 8 people, and there was enough momentum that came from that, from people exchanging information in other capacities, that they became an impetus for momentum for reaching out to the neighborhood regarding emergency response. So we're actually doing fairly well at this time.
That's great. That's a great idea. Wonderful. We'll definitely love to work with you and help you build a neighborhood team in your area.
Patrick, I got her number already.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, both of you, and everybody here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandra. Stacy.
Yes. Following up on her question, do we have to get the kits through our neighborhood council, or it sounds like they have the ability to reject it? And if they did, could we just raise funds like on our street and do it ourselves? Or
yes.
Okay,
we do
cost.
With the neighborhood with their 501c3. The 501c3 does own all the kits. Some problems that we've seen in the past where people have just gone out and done it on their own is that something happens and then everybody forgets it's there, and then nobody knows what it is, and it becomes useless. So with the 501c3, with the way we've set things up, there's continuity with the board of directors, so that we hope that by us owning these kits throughout the city, we're able to make sure they get maintained. We're sure that we can help get the drills going. So there's quarterly drills out of them, really keep the momentum going that we've seen in the private raising of these things that hasn't always happened. But we're very happy to work with you and explore whatever options there are to get this done.
That's great because I am lucky to have a strong community. I'm close with about 15 neighbors up and down the street. And there is a church at the end of the street where maybe we could store one in a parking lot. I just don't know if the neighborhood council will get behind us.
Yeah, definitely reach out to us, that info@ntp-la.org. Email us and let's make something happen. All right, so we are 4 minutes till the end of the hour. I don't like these running late or longer than they need to. So I appreciate everybody for coming. If you do have any additional questions, you want to sit around and chat with us for a little bit after, I'll be on for a little bit. And then I got to go find food. But thank you everybody for coming out. Please reach out to us, info@ntp-la.org, and let's get something going in your area. You're not on your own. I don't want you thinking that you have to do this on your own. This is all about helping us, reaching out to us so we can help you get started and guide you along the process. And if you did contact me in the chat, reach out to me by email, please. There's so much chat going on. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.